Hi everyone, welcome to lesson 8.2. Hope you all had a good week. Make sure you get into the Sean McDowell video before you start into the lesson video. It's linked in the weekly email. I will also post it as a comment under this video. Remember, it's also on Right Now Media. Look for Sean McDowell, the Advocate Set #1 called Speak, and then look for the lesson called Questions. Then take a moment and pray before going on in the lesson. Okay, let's go over the core concepts and definitions for this lesson. Good questions open the door for meaningful spiritual conversations. Questions: expressions or sentences used to draw out a response and learn information. So yes, I know you know what questions are, but in this format, we want to think about it in the sense that we're going to be witnessing to others and how we can really get them to share with us by asking good questions. All right, so yes, lesson 8.2 is called Questions. And this week, the introductory activity was to have a spiritually significant conversation using questions. Of course, this would come up at a time when we are all under stay-at-home orders. However, hopefully you are able to do this activity at home, even as a practice with parents or siblings. And the more comfortable you get doing this, the better you will get at it. And the easier it becomes starting up conversations with others. The reason we're discussing questions this week is because it follows our last topic from last week, which was love and learning how to show love to others, and that we care about them and that we're not hitting them over the head with the Bible. The next step is, how do we share the gospel with someone? Well, we do that by asking questions and developing relationships with that person. So how easy do you find starting conversations with someone on spiritual topics? Probably sounds daunting, doesn't it? Well, several years ago, I was involved in a national writing organization. And once a month we had local meetings and ended up going out to coffee or dinner. Now realize that a large majority of these authors were secular and wrote books you and I would never read due to their adult content. However, when I was first starting out hanging out with them, I was amazed at the respect these authors had for each other and the polite conversations they would have, even about politics, where it was like a safe place, in a sense, to be able to share your true opinions about these things. Now, mind you, this is when Obama was president and politics was a touchy subject, just as it is today. But our local president, she was a Christian and she had a way about her that made people comfortable. And she knew how to ask questions so that everyone would enter into conversation on topics I would never imagine people being able to talk about in a public forum from all of their diverse backgrounds. But they were, and it was really great. And I can't remember the last time I've been able to do that out in the world. So this is the kind of environment we want to develop with others. We want to build relationships. If we ask good questions, we'll get good answers. And not just a yes or no kind of answer, because that quickly ends the conversation. We want to ask in-depth, probing questions, why kinds of questions. Of course, that's easier said than done. And some of us are better than others at starting conversations. And then what if someone asks us something that we don't know the answer to? Well, that's okay. Sometimes it's okay to say, I don't know, but I can find out. Or maybe you want to delve into studying it together and coming up with an answer, or going to an adult that you respect to help you find the answer. But it's okay to say, I don't know. Other times we can ask further questions, which might just extend the conversation and bring more understanding. You can ask, what do you mean by that? For instance, if they just drop a statement on you like, Jesus was just a good moral teacher, or God must not exist because there's too much evil in the world, asking them questions makes them dig deeper in what they are thinking. It allows them to clarify their thoughts and their beliefs. It also buys you time in how to answer them. Often kids your age think they're sharing their own opinion on beliefs, but really they're only repeating something they've heard their parents say, or other adults, or the media. So probing them gets them to dig deeper into what they really believe. Do they really believe that? And why? So that brings us to another question you could ask. How did you come to that conclusion? Encourage them to speak by asking them these questions. And by doing that, you're not just, saying you're wrong. This is the truth. You're allowing them to speak, and you're showing them love, and you're building a relationship, and you're showing them that you care about them as a person and respect them. And you're not just feeding them your opinion. In the lesson this week, we read in Matthew how Jesus spoke with his disciples, and he spoke to them in questions. And in chapter 16, starting in verse 13, it says, When Jesus came to the region of Caesarea Philippi, he asked his disciples, Who do you say the Son of Man is? They replied, Some say John the Baptist, others say Elijah, and still others Jeremiah or one of the prophets. But what about you? He asked. Who do you say I am? Simon Peter answered, You are the Messiah, the Son of the living God. Jesus replied, Blessed are you, Simon, son of Jonah, for this was not revealed to you by flesh and blood, but by my Father in heaven. So Jesus often taught in questions. If you go back and look through the way Jesus would teach in the Gospels, it's often in questions. And if you research how rabbis taught at that time, it's a very common way. Also, parables. And if you look at a lot of other ancient teachers, like, say, Socrates, he also taught in questions, and that's how we get the Socratic method, where teachers try to use questions to bring their students to right thinking. So the most valuable tool you have is to sit down with someone and have a face-to-face conversation with them. Of course, that's kind of hard right now, but hopefully when this quarantine's over, we'll be able to do that. You want to ask good questions. You want to engage in deep, meaningful conversations. And this does so much more than just giving the gospel. It builds relationship. So when the person receives Christ, then discipleship can begin rather than only having a conversion happen. You've already developed that relationship, so they trust you and they're ready to study on. That brings us to our Bible verse. In Proverbs 20, verse 5, the verse is, The purposes of a man's heart are deep waters, but a man of understanding draws them out. Now, hopefully you understood the connection between this verse and our study on questions. The heart of a man is deep, meaning there is depth. And like a deep water or ocean, we don't know everything that's going on inside, down below, inside that person. So we need to be a good listener and draw it out. And one way to do that is asking good questions. Now we'll be able to say our verse. It's a short verse. There's no reason we can't all say it in the Zoom meeting tonight. So be ready to do that. All right, misconception. It is more important to give people answers than to ask thoughtful questions. Now, as human beings, we have an instinctive need to get our point across and be heard. I think you've probably seen that on social media. Plus, we've been given the command to be prepared to give an answer. So But how we do that matters greatly. So how our message is received, it's all about how we present that. The misconception this week is more of a bad habit rather than a strategy of ministry. So it's easier for us just to say what we believe to someone and satisfy our need to be heard than to do the work of asking great questions and letting truth be discovered. The illumination. Questions are a powerful tool to get people to consider spiritual truth. And that brings us to some verses, and these both come from Jesus in Matthew 19:17. Why do you ask me about what is good? Jesus replied. So he's asking a question. There is only one who is good. If you want to enter life, obey the commandments. And then in John 21:15, when they had finished eating, Jesus said to Simon Peter, Simon, son of John, do you truly love me more than these? So again, he's teaching through questions. Asking questions is a skill that takes time and effort to develop. Just like making a new recipe or trying on new clothes, it's helpful to get feedback from close friends and family to build confidence. Begin by asking questions to friends and family, people that you trust, to build your own confidence. And then don't be afraid to ask questions to others when we get the opportunity down the road. And don't be surprised if they reciprocate with another question of their own. And don't be afraid of that. That's good. That's how you have the conversations. And just remember, it's okay if you don't know the answer, because you can tell them you don't know and come up, help them find the answer. It's just having a conversation with someone, developing a relationship. Use those questions, and I challenge you to do that as the situation arises. Well, thanks for tuning in this week's lesson. Hold on to any questions or comments about the lesson and share them in our discussion time. So anything that might have come up, any thoughts you had while doing the lesson this week, or anything during listening to this video, I really want to have some good discussion with you tonight. Make sure you've gone through your discussion questions in your book and have some things to share. So I'll see you on Zoom tonight at 7:30, and we'll do verses 2. See you then.